how can people access it? Go through your stockbroker. That's the easiest way. Your stockbroker will probably have the form, and you fill the form, transfer the money, and you are in it. The good thing for retail investors is that they give priority to retail investors. So usually the pension funds and co will still bid, and their sizes will be very massive. So they'll first of all allot to individuals, meaning that all the retail individuals will first of all get, and they will now start selling to the big boys, right? So, and the minimum investment amount is 10K. So for those that are looking for where to put their money, it means that if you have like maybe 100K, your interest in a year will be like maybe 15K. But it's be split, you get it twice. So you get 7575, right? It's just rounding up as I'm just rounding up basically. It should be slightly more, right? But the idea is this is something that if all these people are looking for where to put their money, that will not disappear. It's something that will be good for them.
People who have extra cash to, instead of putting it in the piggy bank, you just make sure you throw it into Sukuk. But before we move away from Sukuk issues, I know I've driven on some federal highways over the past weekend. I've seen Sukuk, just as you mentioned, the Marina axis. I've seen it on most of around the Oler axis, Oler Benin Expressway, Lagos Ibadan Expressway. I see some of those signs you talked about. And so some other persons can mention, but there is a religious component to this. And because you talked about returns, I'd like you to probably speak on that.
Okay, so for Muslim brothers and sisters, there's this, should I call it a law or a requirement where you don't lend and get interest in return. So it's supposed to be like a profit share, right? As against interest payment. So even though we know how much you'll be getting, it is not necessarily structured with the DMO as a regular bond, right? It is structured such that it's a profit share that you are going to be getting a part of, and they've somehow estimated that this is how much profit you are going to be getting. But for the layman, they will put it as interest just to keep it simple. But it's something Sukuk investments are suitable for to meet that Islamic criteria of not lending to get interest.
So at a time like this, when FX is hard to come by, it looks like even when multinationals are giving very strict conditions to lend out to countries, it would appear Sukuk is the way to go.
Yeah, Sukuk is the way to go. It unlocks a part of financing that people, so a lot of Muslim people that have money would not put it in a bond or whatever. But if it says it's Sukuk, they can jump on it. That money will probably have been sitting down somewhere doing nothing, right? But once you meet that Islamic criteria, it unlocks a new venture or new area of source of financing, which everybody is happy for.
Well. In your earlier submission, you talked about how they would first give the big boys would also come out to play in it, but for us who would have very small money to put into it, if we ever get a little to try around, we can also get into it. So there's something for everybody in it.
Yes. So the minimum investment is 10K. So if you have 10K, you can go in and they won't reject your money.
Okay, that works. So once again, I'd like to get back to the clients this morning to be part of our conversation at any point. I'd like to see the messages piling up on 0809-444-0981 WhatsApp messages. Let's also let you know if you miss any part of this broadcast. You can also reach out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/smooth981fm to catch a replay of past edition of Business Express. Now back to the presidency, if you may. Let's go there because something came out of it yesterday, and it's the request for additional confirmation and screening of some people to join the cabinet. So it's seeming like the hardworking, it's seeming like for some there's need for more hands to come on board.
So the thing is, the headline made it seem like, there were 3 new ministers, right? But if you read, you realize that when the Senate was approving the previous list, there were 3 people's names that were not approved. So what is happening is that the presidency just sent a new list of 3 names to fill up that 48 ministers list. So it's not an increase, right? Because when you see the headlines, you're wondering, what do we need new ministers for? But when you dig a little deeper, you just realize that, it's those people, the slots that were not filled, right? When the first set of ministers were approved, that they're just sending those names for, which I think is fair.
Okay, so that's, in other words, it's a vacancy the presidency is filling out.
So we are still 48 ministers. We still have 48 ministers.
And that's still safe.
I guess.
Okay, let's drift away from ministerial issues, and that in itself, it put paid to it when you mention it. The Nigerian Immigration Service, it's in the radar this time around, knowing how the new Interior Minister came on board and was breeding and was reading the Riot Act of how these guys have to get to work, crack all of this backlog of passports, and he would not want to get to any of these passport centers to see a crowd of Nigerians looking like a refugee situation. And we hear that from the time he got into office till now, it's like a magic wand. It's been cleared. How was this possible?
It's a very, very sad situation. It's good. The news is good, but it's very unfortunate how people could actually work. People could actually do what they needed to do. And they just sat down and people are suffering and they are watching people suffer, right? I must really, really commend the Minister of Interior because it almost felt like there was a problem, like this thing was impossible to surmount, right? And I mean, if you have ever applied for passport in the last 6 to 8 months, you know how hellish it could be, right? But they're telling you right now that your passport is ready. Go and pick it up. So I hope that in picking it up, people won't still have issues, because every step of the way, before now, at least, every step of the way was a stressful process. They will just... It's very unfortunate, and it was across the country, right? So I'm really happy. My concern is that I hope this is sustainable, meaning that they actually put processes in place or systems in place to ensure that a passport application doesn't stay there for 6 months and they're just looking, because beyond this energy, right? The Interior Minister has to focus on other things. So when he moves away from looking at passports backlog, I hope they won't wake up and start building it up again just to get 5K or 10K on top of it. Do you understand? So I hope that beyond this, there's now a system in place to ensure that it doesn't happen again, because there's literally no reason for it to even pile up in the first place.
While we celebrate the Minister Olubomi Tunji Ojo, the Interior Minister, for getting to this aspect, but there is also, now it's been cleared. How do we get to that point where Nigerians don't even need to? Would we ever get to that point where if you apply for a passport, you may not even need to get down to go back to the office to get it? Can be sent to you via a mail or as a courier?
Well, funny enough, years ago, the way you have a passport for 5 years. So you're not involved in the passport process until it expires, right? If I remember clearly, before because my passport also did expire this year, before my passport expired, the last renewal I did 5 years ago, there was an option for DHL to deliver your passport to you. So it's not anything special, right? It's just logistics. And I mean, you have a credible delivery company and you use that, you pay for it and you're good. So it's not something that, in fact, what they should even do is that they should make it standard as part of the pricing, right? Such that you don't have a crowd, that this thing is going to be delivered to you. And the fact is that when you send a package through DHL, it actually gets to you. So it's not like people have a history or reputation. DHL has a reputation of losing your passports, right? Or losing your documents, whatever it is, it actually gets to you. So if it's to find one company and give them that job and say all they do is that they pick up your passport from the immigration service and deliver it to you, everybody's happy. It's not a big deal. It's not anything that we should even be announcing, like one of those easy things to do.
It's like blinking or rather breathing. So why do we need to shout about it? But again, is this good for business?
Oh, yes, it is. A lot of people, for example, I know someone that got caught in the whole backlog of passports, and the person had transactions to do abroad. And the way your passport, once it crosses a certain time, you cannot put a visa on it and stuff. So they were stuck, right? We're all saying we need everybody should be exporting something or the other, meaning that you should be doing transactions outside of Nigeria, and people are trying to do so. But of all things is to get a passport. That is the issue. And I know people that were affected by it. I know people that couldn't travel because of that. And these are viable transactions, legit transactions that could have been done. So the moment we can all get our passports and move freely, that moving freely is the basis of economic growth and development. So once you are free to move as you need to, everybody's happy.
Okay, we'd like you to touch on this one for us as we're getting ready to wind up the show this morning. Subsidy removal. The federal government is aiming to approve about 100 billion naira for high capacity compressed natural gas buses. And let's unpack this. Who's going to benefit from all of this? And knowing that it's been said that next month, 10 what you call pilots campuses have been selected for this.
So, of course, the idea is that as an individual or a business person, if you're in that space, you should be going to lobby to show, to try and see if you can be part of the transaction, because 100 billion is a lot of money. Yeah, right. So that's the first thing. So if you're in that space, I would say the local car manufacturing companies. I know one for the one in the East, for example, right? You should be a part of this, because I mean, if the government is going in a certain direction, it makes sense for you to plug in. Even the foreign car companies that are in Nigeria, the fact is that this is an incentive for them to actually partner with the government and possibly even bring in customized cars, that cars are already customized for not for maybe a mix of fuel and gas. Right? It could be hybrid. I mean, we are trying to do something creative. Some people are doing electric vehicles. We are doing gas, right? So it's possible. So those are the kind of people that can what's it called, be a part of this, that can benefit from this on that level. But I believe that the idea is that Nigerians should benefit from it, meaning that these buses should end up being cheaper to fund daily, and so transport prices should come down, right? So if it really is the case, then I mean, everybody is happy. But those, it's going to be a while before it is implemented on scale, and people begin to see that impact. But I think the first level impact is on businesses. Then the next level will be Nigerians can actually move around cheaper.
Ola, if you can do this for us in about less than a minute, we'll be very happy, because this is connected, so we'd not take it over for ease of doing business to tomorrow. So let's close this up today. And Nigeria spent over 10 trillion naira on non-functioning refinery, and that's coming from the chairman of the tax committee, Oladele. Should the refineries just be shut down?
Well, that's his proposition. He says that the refinery should be shut down. But I personally think differently. I think that the refineries maybe these refineries should be shut down, but we still need to have refineries. The whole world has moved away from massive massive infrastructure for refineries, right? We moved to a point where there are smaller hubs, right, that individuals can take up on their own, right? Or smaller companies can take up, not the massive refineries that we have running right now. But yes, we need refineries. The Senate has even approved some more money to fix these refineries, and they believe that by next year, the refineries will be up and running, all the refineries will be up and running. Let's see. But ideally, I think what we should be moving to is smaller refineries run by private individuals that will be more efficient and would serve us as a nation better.
All right, on that note, we'll bring the show to a close, but let's look up a few messages here. Please ask your guests this question. If a wristwatch costs 10K today and that's 10,000 naira means, and is expected to increase by 30% in a year, rather than buy the bond, is it not better for me to buy today and sell it for 30% profit after a year? At least my return on the watch is above inflation rate. Mike Onyeweke from Marina.
Yes, but that's assuming that somebody will be willing to buy it next year. That's risk.
All right. Counter. Then I've got Isiaka from Ebute Meta coming saying, does the profit or coupon on the sukuk subject to withholding tax? Is the sukuk tradable in the secondary market?
Yes. No, it's not subject. Federal government bonds are not taxable based on current laws. What was the second question?
Then is the sukuk tradable in the secondary market?
Yes, sukuk is tradable, but in interbank markets, not your 10,000 naira. Bigger sizes.
For the big boys.
For the big boys.
Okay. Well, that's how we call it a wrap on the show today. Our guest, Oladele, CFA founder, the Money With Club. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. Talk to you tomorrow again.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.
And that's how we'll call it a wrap on Business Express on Smooth 98.1 FM. Express.